One. Welcome, everyone, to the Tethys Shipyards. I am Takeshi Yamato, the Yardmaster, joining our host, the Housecoat Gamer.
Yo.
Today, well, we're going over another ship that's been statted in the book, statted somewhat off, and we're going to make some adjustments both to the lore and the stats, and also maybe cover a successor.
Oh, we are most definitely covering the successor.
All right. So, we are working with the Challenger class today. Launch year. I will cover the book stats first, then Ron will do the action. Well, I will cover the book lore first and the stats, and then Ron will do proper lore, and then we'll work on modified stats. So, according to the book, launch year 2360. Primary shipyards: Utopia Planitia Fleet Yards in Mars, Yoyodyne Experimental Facilities in Titan Sol, and Tellar Consolidated Fleet Yards, Tellar Prime. Overview: utilizing the warp coil and subspace field theory work done for the Galaxy-class starships wasn't something a single class of vessels could do. One piece of research that came out of Yoyodyne Propulsions was a warp field repeater, similar to warp field stabilizers used on many other older starships. This technology could allow advanced materials to appear transparent to a propulsive subspace field, giving a space frame many more options on how to generate a propulsive warp field and stabilize it. The Challenger class was one of the first designs to use these repeaters, and Starfleet quickly began to assign the space frame to exploration duties in regions of space where as small of a subspace disturbance as possible was desired. These vessels were some of the first to demonstrate a lack of subspace damage at high warp velocities, and many systems and procedures developed for this class would assist in the design of later, more subspace-friendly designs. Capabilities: the warp nacelles of the Challenger class are close together, making the subspace field it generates small and with a high gradient. This means high warp velocities can be achieved at low amounts of power and with minimal damage to subspace. A unique intercooler chamber cycles coolant through the outer nacelles and through the warp field repeaters, also giving this design long periods at high warp velocities. As this vessel could be used in regions of high subspace and space-time distortion, Starfleet ensured the vessel would have the best sensor platforms available at launch, including duplicate platforms on opposite sides of the space frame, and to provide redundancy and interferometric capabilities. Refits and variants: Starfleet planned on improving the vessel's warp field repeaters, but rising tensions with the Klingon Empire and then the Dominion War changed refit plans. The first major refit of the class was scheduled for 2380, when the ships would have their sensors improved with the latest generation of warp field repeaters developed for the Defiant class could be installed. Yoyodyne has experimented with a single vessel as a variant, Red Baron. This vessel has its warp nacelles entirely replaced with ones found on the Sovereign class, and reinforced nacelle struts that allow for an improved intercooler system. Some Challenger-class vessels went into service with Starfleet intelligence, due to the small subspace field generated making long-range detection difficult. These vessels often had extensive upgrades to their sensors and communications arrays included in their refit program, and high-energy pulse subspace screechers were installed along the vessel's warp nacelles to assist in jamming subspace communications and sensors from hostile policies. Suggested mission profiles are Technical Test Bed, Multi-Role Explorer, and Crisis and Emergency Response. Naming conventions: Challenger-class vessels take names from famous air and spacecraft from history, and often their pilots. Rodina, Hercules, and McAuliffe are all examples. For the space frame stats, Federation Starship is the descriptor trait, and we have systems values are comms 8, computers 10, engines 11, sensors 11, structure 8, weapons 8. scale 4 starship. So let's see, 56 points. 2360 minus 2360, yeah, 56 points. 16, 22, 18, 22, 16, 40, 16, 56. That fits. Department modifiers, 1 point each in con, engineering, and science. Weapons are phaser arrays, photon torpedoes, and a strength 3 tractor beam. Talents are improved warp drive and redundant system sensors. Okay, Ron, your turn.
And now I'm going to be very, very pissed off. See, I am going to read you the registry code for the USS Buran, a ship of this class. NCC Nova Charlie Charlie 57580. What is the registry code for the USS Galaxy?
NCC 70637.
Now, I don't know about you, but I severely doubt Starfleet would break its chronological introductions for this stuff. The Galaxy came before the Defiant, and the Defiant came before Voyager. Go ahead, argue with me. Look at their commissioning dates. You'll see that my position is supported by the lore.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I really have to say about the lore in that case is that the ship was actually built as part of the Galaxy-class development program, specifically to test the full-size configuration of the nacelles with a generally smaller saucer section, and in a way is a sister class to the New Orleans. As everyone already is well aware, the USS Buran fought at Wolf 359 and showcased some of the flaws in this class. Namely the fact that it was too lightly armed and too lightly shielded to confront something like a Borg cube, compared to the only Akira-class vessel to actually participate in the battle, the USS Canada. Which actually did some damage, but just required some refitting to, match up to the standards of its later sisters.
Yeah.
Most of the Challenger fleet was laid up after Wolf 359 and replaced with more combat-capable vessels, such as the much simpler to maintain and easier to refit Sabre class, the obviously more combat-capable Akira class, and everyone's favorite, the artillery cruiser, the Steamrunner. While logistical duties, which this ship could have taken up, were retaken up by the Norway class. However, Starfleet, after the Dark Ages, after the Battle of the attack on Mars by the Tal Shiar, decided to revisit the past, and recommissioned a few Challenger-class vessels to serve as test beds for a new development program. As we are all well aware at this point, Starfleet loves to revisit the past, to regain inspiration. Hence the inclusion of starships like the Constitution 3, the Excelsior 2, and the spiritual successor to the Constellation and Cheyenne class, the Sagan. We will deal with those at some point. Well, we've already dealt with the Constitution 3, just not the Excelsior 2.
Yeah.
Which led to the creation of something that was also inspired, at least partially, by the Akula-class destroyer, the Atlantis-class medium cruiser. Named, of course, after the mythical city of Atlantis, the Space Shuttle Orbiter Atlantis, and the NX-05, I think?
Right.
Anyway, the only real difference between the Challenger and the Atlantis is, while the Challenger was clearly designed as a testbed for the Galaxy class, the Atlantis is much later developed and takes more inspiration from the Sutherland and Sorry, I forgot the class name, the Andromeda.
Yeah.
While also taking some inspiration, rather ironically, from the Akira class, as you can tell from the general configuration of the saucer. If you cannot see the Akira class, minus its shuttle bay in that image, you are blind.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yep, I can see it too.
Of course, we're not going to need to change anything for the Challenger other than stats. Other than shifting a couple of numbers around. The class was introduced shortly after the debacle at Narendra 3.
So probably in the early 2350s, similar to the Cheyenne and Springfield.
No need to change any of that.
Yeah, the Cheyenne was 20.
Other than reduce a number of numbers.
Yeah, the Cheyenne was 2350. The Springfield was 2352. The Challenger,
roughly around the same time. Remember, this is actually something that happens in real life. You test something in small scale, then you scale up.
we'll do 2353.
Decent
And
enough.
that means we'll need to reduce 1 point.
Probably shields.
So structure down to 7.
I mean, people in the comments are probably going to be going, obviously structure. I mean, look at the damn thing. I argue it's actually quite more durable than even the Galaxy class in this configuration. It's a very narrow targeting profile.
Yeah.
Though that wasn't the point.
Alright. Now, for the Atlantis, entered service date.
It's going to be top of the line. Probably at the dawn of the 25th century. Most likely after Frontier Day, for obvious reasons.
So 2402?
Yes. Of course, the ship hadn't seen actual combat until well after the Iconian War for obvious reasons. Put out the ships that are proven rather than the experimentals. You don't want to have another case of the Federation class.
Yeah. The Reliant was 23. Yeah. For some of the other STO starships, the Reliance class, aka the modern Miranda, was 2397, and the Sutherland, the Nebula equivalent, the Andromeda's Nebula equivalent, was 2398. So 2402 works. Let's see, that brings us up to a total of 60 points. So with comms 8, computers 10, engines 11, sensors 11, structure 7, weapons 8, it's 55 points. We got 5 more to put in.
And the lion's share, of course, is going to be going into weapons. As a post-359er, the irony of that statement.
Yeah.
Starfleet is going to be going more into making sure their ships can actually fight.
Right.
I mean,
we can,
their ships are going to be primarily scientific, but let's be honest, there's never going to be another Dominion War situation where they're not prepared for it.
Yeah. Let's see. So weapons 8 up to, we could put 2 points. We could use 2 points to bring it to weapons 10, or 3 points to weapons 11.
10. It is a light cruiser.
Okay, so that leaves 3 points available. I'd say 2 points in structure, structure 9.
She is a bit beefier.
Yep, 1 more point.
Most likely computers. This is to reference its temporal operations. What's the word I'm looking for? Seating?
Right.
Because you need better computers to deal with time shit.
Yeah.
And time shit sucks.
Yeah. Okay. So so department values, again, the Challenger had 1 point each in con, engineering, and science.
I don't see any reason to actually change that.
Right. Scale 4 weapons are weapons, phaser arrays, photon torpedoes, strength 3 tractor beam. Given the time frame, we could change photon to quantum.
Might as well.
Quantum torpedoes. Talents. Again, the Challenger had improved warp drive and redundant systems sensors.
Well, as for her weapon systems, I think it's obvious that this ship would have phaser cannons.
Oh, so add phaser cannons as well?
Yep.
Let's see. Talents. So yeah, we have improved warp drive and redundant systems sensors. Do you want to swap either of those out for anything?
I don't see any reason to. Despite the fact that I was bashing the Challenger a little earlier, really, you have to consider the Federation's situation back in the 2340s and 50s. The Romulans had decided to screw off past the neutral zone to deal with whatever the hell they were dealing with. The Klingons were allies. The Cardassians are a joke. I don't even need to get started on the Talarians.
Yeah.
They let themselves stagnate because there was no near-peer power. They paid for it. But
Yeah.
they're gonna have to... But they learned the lesson, painful as it was. And here we are.
Yeah.
Anywho, as for the starship herself...
Right. Let's do a notable starship for the Challenger. For the Atlantis.
I'm personally thinking a ship that is one of the orbiters.
Ah.
Obviously not the Enterprise. Obviously not the Challenger. That's just begging for trouble.
Yeah.
However, I'm sorry, I am actually looking up the orbiters themselves.
Yeah. I can
Actually,
just
out
go
of
to...
spite, just out of pure actual spite,
Yeah.
USS Discovery.
Oh!
I hate STD. And the fact that they named their ship after one of the orbiters, a sister of the OV-101 Enterprise, is infuriating.
Alright.
This is one of my ways of getting back at them. Screw them.
Yep. So I will do. So let's see. I'll copy in some of the stats and.
I will have to look up a registry code. As much as I hate to say this, our only real source is STO. So I'm going to have to pause and come back now. Sorry about that. We had to get the registry code for the boat. You know how it is.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we will not be repeating that with the next boat. Just means I have to write down the next one.
Yep. So what we're so we've given this thing the registry code NCC 97386.
As a temporal operations starship, it also disappeared during an incident in the Delta Quadrant. Alongside other vessels such as the Kiopesh. Anywho, recommended rules for this boat, obviously patrol,
let's see,
scientific operations, basically anything a Starfleet ship can do. Just not as well as something like the Galaxy or Andromeda class.
Yeah, let's see. What profile shall we give the Discovery herself?
Well, a scout ship, most like.
So, Pathfinder and reconnaissance operations?
That'll do.
Alrighty. Pathfinder. Alrighty. So, the department values for that profile are Command 2, Con 3, Security 2, Engineering 2, Science 2, Medicine 1. Add that to the modifiers, gives us Command 2, Con 4, Security 2, Engineering 3, Science 3, Medicine 1. And has 11 power because engines, and shields are structure plus security, so that's 11 as well. Now, the mission profile talent options are improved reaction control system, improved warp drive, and rugged design. We already have improved warp drive on the Atlantis space frame.
She does appear to be a tad bit rugged.
Alright, rugged design.
I mean, let's be honest, she takes the best elements from every starship that inspired her. While her saucer is mostly that of a downscaled Andromeda, she has all the blended features of an Akira, the general configuration of an Akula, all while being inspired by the Challenger, which is a really tough target to hit half the time anyway.
Yep. Let's see, as a scale 4 starship, we have room for one more talent.
Enhanced sensors?
Alright, that's either advanced sensor suites or high resolution sensors.
High resolution. This thing is designed to scout targets. And to hit back when anything decides to, engage her.
Okay.
Regardless, I do believe that's the Atlantis class.
Yep.
I'm going to consider this yet another trial run for starships for SFC being ported into STO. I mean, just compare the Akula to this, and you will see where I'm coming from. It looks almost exactly like the Akula. Yes, I know, the nacelles are at the wrong angles for that, but it's a step towards it. Hopefully we get to see the Akula, and maybe the Federation class, in STO sometime soon. God knows we need more of those ancient boats.
Yep.
The more time goes on, the more they fade into obscurity. And I'd like to see how Cryptic actually handles these inspirational designs.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.